Hi, everyone. My name's Priya, and I'm a Humber College graduate of the journalism program. I'm going to get started. Voice, opportunity. What do those words mean to you? And how have those words shaped your life? Let me ask you what you would do if you didn't have the opportunity. And even worse, if you didn't have the opportunity to have your voice be heard. What if the only representation you ever saw in the media of yourself was when there was a murder, or a shooting, or a robbery? What would you aspire to be? And better yet, how would your story be documented? I ask you these questions today because I'm going to share with you how I used what I learned in the Humber College walls in the journalism program to reach my peers, and then in later years, reach young people in my community who had felt silenced. The reason I did this is because I believed in the power of telling our own stories, in shifting the voice of the people. I could have come out of journalism school and worked at a regular newspaper or a regular magazine. And for some time, I did do that. I worked at the Toronto Star, the Scarborough Mirror, Post City magazines. But as I was there, writing and editing and reporting and gaining my hard skills, I was also noticing a void. I was observing the media room around me, and I was thinking, the media is the voice of the people. The media tells us what to care about. The media determines what's news. But how can that be truly representative of everyone if I look around me and I don't see anyone that looks or sounds like me, and nobody who's come from neighborhoods like mine, the one that I grew up in? That was the void that I was starting to see. And I knew that my work was in something larger. As much as I enjoyed writing and editing and interviewing interesting people, and of course the perks that come along with journalism, like the free food and events and the gift bags, I realized that I was put in this position to achieve something larger. In the summer between my second and third year at Humber, I approached a friend of mine who was studying at Seneca College, who I knew from high school, Adrian McKenzie. I said to him, we need a voice. We need a voice on the newsstand that represents us, people like us, people who grew up like us and have the same interests like us, and the same types of experiences. We need a magazine on the Canadian newsstands that speaks to the hip-hop generation. Because at the time, and probably still now, the only time I ever heard about hip-hop in the media was if 50 Cent was being banned from Canada, or if the music was being blamed for the downfall of today's youth, for being misogynistic, vulgar, and violent. We need a voice to counter this one-sided representation. Yes, we were young, we were minorities, we were from what is now known as a priority neighborhood. We didn't have very much money, and we definitely didn't have a lot of experience. So why, you might ask, would we start a magazine? Of all things, magazines, independent magazines, are very difficult. And they're definitely not a money-making enterprise. But for us, it was about so much more than money. It was about taking our voice back, about finding a purpose in this world that means something. When you find something that's greater than yourself, that really touches you and gives you something to believe in. We created a magazine, and we took people by surprise. We covered things like the murder of Scarborough teenager Jeffrey Riotica by Toronto police. We asked popular rappers what they would do if they were the president of the United States. We gave light to Canadian hip-hop artists who often fell under the radar. We covered important issues like Hurricane Katrina, race relations in Nova Scotia, global warming, and entrepreneurship. And we did it all in a professional magazine that held its own on the newsstand next to Time, Chatelaine, Maclean's, and Toronto Life. The only difference between ours was when you turned it open to page 8 and 9 and saw the people who put it together, who held titles and positions of writers, editors, illustrators, photographers. They were young, they were diverse, and they were from the same hip-hop generation that we were trying to reach. And the power of that opportunity, the opportunity to have a stake in having your voice heard. How do I recognize the power? Well, the people, they worked night and day to hold jobs, go to school, and be a part of the urbanology movement. They weren't getting paid. They were just committed and believed. Many of them have gone on to open up their own media companies, blogs, their photography businesses, thrown festivals, written books, and started organizations. Some have moved on to dream positions that they had for themselves, like stylist on the Tyra Banks show, reporter at the CBC, reporter at CTV. Were all of these people set on those paths before urbanology? Not all of them. Some of them had not finished high school. Some had graduated from college and university and weren't too sure where to go. Some were moving from job to job. Some had had conflicts with the law. Some were living the street life. And others, they were just interested in knowing the behind the scenes of the hip-hop industry. But the experiences they gained from urbanology, no matter what they were, have been said to be invaluable in their journey. Do I take credit for that movement? Not at all, because that power is not within me. That power is within the voice and the opportunity that I believe urbanology represents. It's the same power that can be exercised in schools and traditional systems which we are seeing fail our youth every single day. I would say it again. There is power in having a voice and feeling like that voice is being heard. There is power in opportunity. There is power in feeling like you have a greater purpose, feeling like you belong to something larger than yourself, and feeling like you have ownership over something. And it is with that power that I truly believe that you can transform lives of young people and break the cycles that plague neighborhoods like the one that I grew up in. But saying it is one thing. Doing it is another. In 2005, when we were still in the early stages of urbanology, I got involved with an initiative in Scarborough called STEPS, showcasing the endless possibilities of Scarborough. It was a conference and awards show that youth in Scarborough were coordinating in partnership with several different organizations in the community to raise awareness around violence. I was invited to the table as a young person who was already organizing and creating in my community. So when I got to the table, I said, let's have a STEPS magazine. I will work with the other youth at the table and bring my skills that I learned at Humber and through urbanology, and together we'll create a for youth, by youth magazine for Scarborough. We did that 2 years in a row, and when STEPS came to an end, the power of our voice didn't. Two of the young women that I worked with went to East Metro Youth Services, the lead organization of STEPS, with the idea of expanding the STEPS magazine into a full-fledged journalism media program focused on reaching youth living in the 7 underserved neighborhoods of Scarborough, with a specific focus of reaching out to youth who may not be included in programs like this on the regular. Youth who may have been out of school, out of work, or who may have been in conflict with the law. The program would partner with post-secondary institutions to break down the barrier of college or university and be an alternative education program for youth 16 to 24 to have their voice heard. Since 2008, the program, Say Word, led by youth, has been funded and is operating and has touched over 125 young people in Scarborough. What have the youth gained from this project? Well, in addition to creating radio shows, an online channel of youth-produced video clips, and 2 editions of the Say Word magazine, all content that is their ideas, their thoughts, their opinions, their reporting, they have said that Say Word is their home away from home, their escape, their family, that it has been life-changing, and without it, they don't think they would be where they are now. So what is it that I want you to walk away with from me today? It doesn't really matter if you remember Urbanology or Say Word. What I want you to remember is the power of voice, the power of opportunity. Think about what those 2 things have done to shape the course of your life. And think about what it must be like for someone who may feel like there is no opportunity for them for any number of reasons. And worse, for someone who feels like there is no opportunity for them to be heard. Think about the fact that we must continue to create platforms for us to share and hear each other's stories, because without understanding where we've come from, it is impossible for us to understand where we're going. It is easy to turn on the television, to see another headline about another arrest made in a shooting, and scoff at the victims and the perpetrators and say, just another senseless gang shootout. But it won't be until you sit back and really begin to think about why anyone would pick up a gun in the first place that you might start to get to the deeper issue. If someone is pulling a trigger, it probably means they feel like they have nothing worth living for. If someone is walking with a gun, it probably means they feel like they have nothing else that will keep them safe. But if there's never an opportunity for those stories to be told, they will continue to be left silenced. We each have a purpose, and we each have ownership over our own stories. But some of us are yet to realize that power and opportunity. Some of us are yet to realize we can because so many people told us we can't. This is the power on which Urbanology was built. This is the power that Say Word was built. We realized the power of voice and opportunity. We realized that we would be silenced no more. And I challenge you to realize the same thing. Thank you.